Hey you, welcome back to Secrets with Maeve, the space for the conversations we usually keep to ourselves. I'm Maeve. Today we're talking about something I know so many of us struggle with in silence. Make her think of you, instantly hack. Let's get into it. They have no idea that within that brief moment of contact lies a hidden lever for connection. When executed with specific unconscious triggers, it becomes a nonverbal conversation that builds attraction faster than words ever could. Today, I'll reveal the 4 silent rules that transform a simple embrace into an unforgettable imprint. The mistake is believing touch is just touch. In reality, it's a language. Her nervous system is translating your pressure, placement, and timing into feelings of safety, strength, and desire. Master this language, and you communicate value on a primal level. Let's break down secret 1. Before we go deeper, please like and subscribe. And today, we're not talking about manipulation. We're not talking about tactics to trick anyone. We're talking about understanding human psychology at a level most people never pause to explore. And I want to speak directly to you for a moment. If you've ever felt confused about why one interaction felt electric while another felt flat, if you've ever hugged someone and sensed that something shifted, but you couldn't explain what, if you've ever walked away wondering, did she feel that too? You are not imagining things. Human beings are wired for connection, especially as we grow older, especially as we become more aware of what real intimacy means. We begin to understand that attraction isn't loud, it isn't flashy, it isn't about rehearsed lines. It lives in subtlety, it breathes in timing, it hides in the details most people rush past. And touch, appropriate, respectful, emotionally aligned touch, is one of the most powerful psychological communicators we possess. Research in effective neuroscience shows that skin-to-skin contact activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowers cortisol, and increases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. But here's what most men never learn. It's not just contact that matters. It's how let's begin with the anchoring palm. Where you place your hand during an embrace is your first sentence in a silent conversation. Most men default to the upper back, sometimes with a light pat. That placement says, I'm safe, I'm polite, I'm friendly. And there is nothing wrong with that, but it does not communicate grounded masculine presence. The lower back, just above the tailbone, is neurologically significant. That area connects to the body's center of gravity. When you place your palm there with calm steadiness, not grabbing, not roaming, but resting firmly, you send a signal of stability. Think about how a child instinctively leans into a parent's hand placed at the lower back while crossing the street. It communicates protection without words. For a woman, especially one who values emotional security, that placement can subtly say, you are supported here. Now, let me be clear. This is not about claiming ownership. It's about embodying steadiness. There's a difference, and women feel that difference instantly. I once worked with a client in his late 50s, divorced, intelligent, kind, but chronically stuck in the nice guy zone. He told me, I don't understand. Women say I'm wonderful, but they don't feel chemistry. When we unpacked his body language, we discovered something fascinating. His hugs were tentative, his palms hovered. He was physically present, but energetically retreating. We practiced grounded presence, slower breathing, firm but respectful placement, confidence in his physical space. 3 months later, he told me, for the first time, a woman held on to me a second longer than I expected. That second wasn't random. It was a response. A loose hug communicates uncertainty. It says, I'm here, but I might disappear. It feels like someone tapping the surface of water instead of stepping into it. Containment psychologically creates safety. In trauma-informed therapy, we talk about holding space. The body can do that before words ever try. When your embrace has consistent, calm pressure, not squeezing, not collapsing, it gives her nervous system something to regulate against. Think of it like leaning against a sturdy wall. Your body becomes that wall. Studies in somatic psychology show that steady pressure reduces anxiety responses in the amygdala. That's not poetic language, that's biology. A confident embrace tells her subconscious, this person is not scattered. But here is the subtle mistake many men make. They attempt firmness without relaxation. They hold tension in their shoulders. They grip instead of enveloping. Firm does not mean rigid. True containment feels like warmth with structure. Imagine wrapping someone in a thick blanket. The blanket doesn't squeeze, it surrounds. If you want to practice this, here's a simple exercise. Stand upright. Roll your shoulders back gently. Take one slow inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6. Feel your feet on the ground. That grounded sensation is what you bring into the embrace. Women are incredibly sensitive to nervous system cues. If you are anxious, she will feel it in microseconds. If you are steady, she will settle. And this brings us to the third secret, duration. Most people underestimate timing. They think attraction is built on big gestures. But neuroscience tells a different story. Oxytocin release significantly increases after approximately 6 seconds of sustained safe touch. Not 3, not 2, 6. Yet many men break contact at 3 seconds because of internal fear. Am I holding too long? Is this awkward? What if she pulls away? That fear transmits. Confidence, on the other hand, creates space. Between seconds 5 and 7, something remarkable happens. Breathing synchronizes. Heart rates subtly align. The initial alertness in the nervous system softens. That window is what transforms a greeting into a moment. I remember a widower in his early 60s who began dating again after 25 years of marriage. He felt rusty, unsure. We worked on simply counting silently during an embrace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He later shared that during one date, he held for that calm 6 seconds. When he gently stepped back, she was still looking at him softer than before. She said that felt really nice. Not dramatic, not cinematic, but meaningful. Now, before we continue to the final and most overlooked secret, pause for a moment. Have you ever noticed how some hugs linger in your memory for days? Why? It's rarely because of force. It's because of presence. If this is resonating with you, if you're realizing that attraction might be quieter than you thought, take a moment and like this video. It tells me you value depth over gimmicks. And share in the comments. Have you ever experienced a hug that changed how you saw someone? Now let's talk about the release, because this is where the signature lives. Most men treat the end of an embrace like flipping a light switch. Contact, disconnect, done. But psychologically, the last sensation often leaves the strongest imprint. This is known as the recency effect. The brain prioritizes what happens last. When you pull away abruptly, the nervous system experiences a microjolt. When you release gradually, you extend the emotional arc. As you lean your torso back, let one hand remain for half a second longer. A slow glide down the arm, a light brush near the shoulder, a fleeting touch near the nape. If and only if the dynamic supports that level of familiarity. This is not about sensuality for its own sake. It's about continuity. The nape of the neck, for example, is rich in nerve endings and associated with vulnerability. A respectful, brief contact there can create a sensory echo. The body remembers. But intention matters more than technique. If your energy is rushed, it will feel invasive. If your energy is grounded, it will feel warm. Let me ask you something deeper. When you embrace someone, are you trying to get something or are you offering something? That difference defines everything. Women, especially emotionally mature women, are not responding to choreography. They are responding to congruence. If your words say confidence, but your touch says doubt, she trusts the touch. If your words say interest, but your body says distraction, she trusts the body. Touch is truth serum, and this is why millimeter level details matter. Not because you're performing, but because your nervous system is always speaking. Before we go any further, I want to slow this down because what we're really talking about isn't hugging. We're talking about nervous systems meeting each other. We're talking about emotional safety. We're talking about why one embrace feels like coming home and another feels like standing in a waiting room. Now, here's where this becomes even more powerful. Every woman carries an attachment blueprint, and that blueprint determines how she experiences physical closeness. Psychologists like John Bowlby and later Mary Ainsworth showed us that early bonding experiences shape how we respond to intimacy as adults. While their work focused on childhood, modern relationship science has confirmed something fascinating. Attachment styles show up in romantic touch. If she has a secure attachment style, your grounded embrace will feel natural and welcome. If she leans anxious, she may melt into it quickly, but also fear losing it. Let me give you an example. I once counseled a woman in her early 60s who had re-entered the dating world after decades of independence. She described meeting a man she genuinely liked, intelligent, kind, calm. On their third date, he hugged her in a way that was steady and warm, and she panicked. When you hug someone, do you fully arrive in that moment, or are you thinking about how you're being perceived? Because presence is the invisible amplifier. There's research from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill showing that longer partner hugs significantly reduce blood pressure and stress markers. But here's what most people overlook. The calming effect increases when both people are emotionally attuned. Attunement means you're reading subtle cues. Is her breathing shallow? Is she leaning in or holding her weight back? Are her arms fully around you or resting lightly? These are not tests. They are information. And when you become skilled at reading this information without overreacting, you become emotionally safe. That word safe is not weak. It is magnetic, especially for mature women, especially for women who have lived through disappointment, betrayal, or loneliness. Safety does not eliminate desire. It enables it. Let's go deeper into the neuroscience for a moment. The human skin contains specialized nerve fibers called C-actyl afferents. These fibers respond specifically to slow, gentle, emotionally meaningful touch. They send signals not just to sensory regions of the brain, but to emotional processing centers. That's why a rushed hug feels empty and a slow, grounded one feels personal. Your tempo matters. If you rush the initial contact, her nervous system stays alert. If you move deliberately, her system registers calm. This is where the concept of pacing becomes critical. Imagine you're greeting her after not seeing her for a week. Instead of immediately collapsing into her, pause half a second, make eye contact, let your expression soften, then move in. That half second creates anticipation. Anticipation heightens emotional impact. In psychology, we call this emotional priming. The brief pause allows her brain to predict something pleasant before it happens. And prediction increases dopamine. You see how subtle this is? We're not talking about seduction tricks. We're talking about embodied awareness. Now, let's address something that many men over 50 quietly struggle with: fear of misreading signals. In today's culture, there is understandable caution around physical contact, and that caution is healthy. Respect is non-negotiable. So how do you navigate this without becoming robotic? You calibrate through micro-consent. Micro-consent is not verbal permission every second. It's responsiveness. If she initiates the hug, that's information. If she leans her body toward you during conversation, that's information. If she touches your arm lightly while laughing, that's information. And if she keeps a physical distance, that is also information. Emotionally intelligent men do not override signals. They harmonize with them. Let me give you a small but powerful exercise. The next time you hug someone you're genuinely interested in, do 3 things. First, ground your breath before contact. Second, notice her breathing during contact. Third, when you release, maintain eye contact for 1 second longer than usual. That final eye contact bridges physical and emotional connection. It prevents the hug from feeling transactional. Now, I want to tell you a story that illustrates how transformative this can be. A gentleman in his early 70s once told me, "Mary, I feel invisible in the dating world." He wasn't invisible. He was guarded. His hugs were polite but quick. His touch never lingered. His eyes darted away first. When we unpacked it, he admitted something vulnerable. After his divorce, he promised himself he would never get hurt again. So his body stayed ready to retreat. Do you see how that shows up? Even without words, we worked on slow exhalation during embraces. We practiced holding eye contact after release. We worked on letting his shoulders relax instead of tighten. Months later, he shared that a woman he'd been seeing told him, "When you hug me, I feel calm." That sentence meant more to him than any compliment, because calm is rare, especially in a world of constant stimulation. Now let's return to secret 4, the lingering signature, and deepen it. The release phase is psychologically delicate. If you break contact abruptly, the nervous system experiences a drop. That drop can feel like rejection, even if think of the release as a fade out, not a cut off. Your hand glides slowly away. Your body creates space gradually. Your facial expression stays warm. And here's the subtle master stroke. After you release, do not immediately fill the silence with chatter. Let there be 1 breath of stillness. Stillness allows the moment to register. Many people talk to reduce their own vulnerability, but silence can intensify connection. Have you ever noticed how some moments feel suspended in time? That's what you're creating. Now, I want to challenge you gently. Are you willing to be present enough to risk feeling something? Because here's the truth. If you hold back emotionally, your touch will reflect that. If you're rushing to the next step, your hug will feel like a stepping stone instead of a destination. Women sense when they are being experienced versus when they are being evaluated, and being experienced feels rare. If this conversation is opening your eyes to the depth behind something as simple as a hug, take a moment to like this video, and in the comments tell me, have you ever realized that your body language might be saying more than your words? Now we're entering territory that very few people ever consciously explore, because attraction is not built in obvious moves. It's built in invisible layers. And if you truly want to understand why some embraces linger in memory for days, sometimes weeks, we have to talk about the deeper sensory architecture behind connection. Let's begin with posture alignment. When 2 bodies meet, they don't just touch, they negotiate space. If your torso leans back while your arms reach forward, it creates energetic contradiction. You're saying, "Come here and stay away at the same time." Her nervous system will register that in congruence immediately. Alignment means your chest, hips, and shoulders move cohesively, not aggressively forward, not collapsing inward, simply upright, grounded, available. There's something profoundly regulating about an aligned spine. Studies in embodied cognition show that posture influences emotional perception. When you stand upright with relaxed shoulders, you are perceived as more confident and more trustworthy even before you speak. Now imagine combining that with a slow, steady embrace. You are no longer just hugging. You are offering nervous system stability. Let's talk about muscle tension, because this is one of the biggest hidden sabotages. Many men carry tension in their forearms and hands without realizing it. When they embrace someone they're attracted to, that tension increases. The grip becomes slightly tight, the shoulders rise, the breath shortens to her body. That reads as internal anxiety. And anxiety is not the same thing as passion. This is why breath control is foundational. Before contact, inhale slowly through your nose. As you wrap your arms around her, exhale gently. Let your exhale soften your hands. A relaxed hand communicates security. A gripping hand communicates fear of loss. Subtle difference, massive impact. Now let's move into something even more fascinating. Scent. I'm not talking about cologne. I'm talking about natural scent blending with clean presence. Human beings are biologically wired to respond to pheromonal cues. While we don't consciously smell attraction the way animals do, our brains still process compatibility signals through scent. This is one reason why closeness can suddenly feel magnetic or neutral. But here's what matters most. Familiarity builds comfort. When a hug lasts those full 5 to 7 seconds, her brain has time to register your scent profile. Over repeated interactions, that scent becomes associated with safety. And association builds attachment. Now, I want to pause and address something deeply important. Not every woman experiences touch the same way. For women with a trauma history, even mild relational trauma, touch can activate protective reflexes before conscious thought kicks in. If she stiffens slightly at first, do not personalize it. Do not withdraw in offense. Maintain calm, steadiness without increasing intensity. Often the body needs 1 or 2 seconds to assess safety. And if she relaxes into you after that initial micro pause, you have just communicated something incredibly powerful: patience. Patience is emotionally attractive. Now, let me tell you about something rarely discussed: micro withdrawal. Micro withdrawal is when someone physically pulls back a centimeter but doesn't step away entirely. Many men respond by tightening their hold. That is a mistake. Instead, slightly loosen your pressure while maintaining contact. This communicates you have autonomy here. Autonomy is magnetic. No woman wants to feel captured. She wants to feel chosen and free to choose back. Now let's talk about emotional pacing over time. The first hug between 2 people carries a different charge than the 10th. If you escalate intensity too quickly, firmer pressure, longer duration, more intimate touch without relational depth supporting it, the body senses imbalance. Attraction thrives on progression. The first embrace may be steady and warm. The next might include slightly longer eye contact afterward. The one after that might include a softer facial expression, closer proximity before contact. Gradual layering builds anticipation. Anticipation builds desire, but rushing destroys it. There's a psychological principle called the peak end rule introduced by Daniel Kahneman. It explains that people remember experiences based largely on the emotional peak and the ending. So ask yourself, what emotional peak are you creating? Is it tension? Is it awkwardness? Or is it warmth and grounded presence? And what is your ending? Abrupt separation or lingering softness? These details determine how she remembers you after you're gone. Now, I want to go deeper into something even more subtle: emotional congruence. If your internal dialogue during the hug is, does she like me? Am I doing this right? Should I let go? That anxiety transmits. But if your internal state is, I'm glad she's here, I'm grounded, I'm present, that transmits too. You cannot fake nervous system calm, but you can cultivate it. Meditation, breath work, physical exercise, emotional self-awareness. These practices make your presence heavier in the best way. Heavier not as weight, heavier as gravity. Have you ever met someone whose hug felt grounding, almost anchoring? That wasn't technique. That was internal regulation. Now I want to gently challenge something else. Many men focus on how to create attraction. Few focus on how to sustain it. Sustained attraction requires emotional consistency. If your hug is warm one day and distracted the next, her subconscious detects instability. Consistency builds trust. Trust allows vulnerability. Vulnerability deepens desire. Let's talk about eye contact during the embrace itself. Some men close their eyes immediately. That's fine, but only if it feels natural. Others keep their eyes open but look around the room. That communicates disengagement. If appropriate to the context, let your cheek lightly rest near hers. Let your gaze soften before you close your eyes. These micro movements slow the moment down. Slowness is sensual because it signals confidence. Rushing signals urgency. Urgency often signals fear. Now I want you to reflect honestly. When was the last time you allowed yourself to fully feel and embrace without strategizing the next move? Connection is not a ladder, it is a moment. And moments, when fully inhabited, create memory. Before we move into the final part where we integrate everything into a practical framework you can apply immediately, I want you to pause. Think of the last woman you felt genuine interest in. If you hugged her again today, what would you do differently? Would you breathe slower, hold 1 second longer, release more gently, maintain eye contact after? Awareness is transformation.